There are no adequate words to express the remorse that festers in me every day. To live with what my choices about my life have done to others is torture. My destructive decisions were not self-destructive choices, but universally destructive ones. You probably all hear the lectures and the speeches about choices. One decision, one millimoment in time, and lives are irreversibly changed. We are all connected. It's not your life or my life. It's our lives.
Before the crash, we were typical teenagers in every sense. I mean, we wanted to get our driver's licenses, we wanted to sort of be on our own, kind of separate of our families, wanted to be independent, wondered what our future was going to look like what kind of jobs we were going to have, who we were going to be, what college we'd go to, that sort of thing. I mean, those ideas were just sort of formulating. But at the same time, we would just talk on the phone, go to the movies. I think we all had part-time jobs after school. And we were involved in school. I was always in art club and, in the whole art department, I was sort of always around there. And Angie was too. Megan was more after-school programs, kind of involved in a lot of different things. She was kind of popular over a broad spectrum. A lot of people knew her. And then Amanda and I didn't go to school together, but she was into photography and she knew a lot of people. And Shayna was kind of like a free spirit. She liked music, she loved her sisters, and she was funny. She just had this really kind of great, easy sense of humor. We were all very cool. We thought we were cool. We had fun.
My life was a blend of Leave It to Beaver and Little House on the Prairie. I had love, guidance, discipline, support, and boundaries. My life was good. We prayed, talked, laughed, and ended our day together. My sister and I were afforded every opportunity. The only complication in life was to decide which neat activity or experience in which to participate. A few weeks into my freshman year in college, I just decided not to go. Did I think that decision through? No. I wanted to travel, work, surf. I moved to the beach and surfed all day and did restaurant work at night. My parents were supportive, but I could tell they wanted a different life for me. As far as the future, I didn't have a desire to get married or have children. I loved animals and other people's children. I taught kids surfing on the Outer Banks and cross-country skiing in Colorado. I thought I was happy. Something still didn't feel right. The time between high school graduation and 1999 was speckled with various really bad decisions. That, in my past opinion, didn't affect anyone but me. So I didn't tell my parents or as few people as possible. It seemed that most people at the beach would have a couple of drinks and drive home after work, and if you got pulled over, you'd just pay a fine. As long as you felt okay or were in control, it was all right, so I thought. I had a lot of book knowledge, but zero common sense. That is no fault of my parents. They had no idea the day-to-day poor decisions I made. I was always in another state. I never imagined anything bad would happen. I never considered that my life had the potential to harm anyone but myself.
We woke up kind of early. Shayna went to work, She worked at a beach store, and Megan and I went running. We got up before the other two did. We went running, and we were just talking about the next year we were going to be seniors and getting our licenses and what we wanted to do after school, after high school ended. And then we all met up together back at the house. We washed the Lawlor's car. I remember that. We decided we were going to wash their car. And then we went to the beach and we laid out in the sun with coats on because it was April. And then Shayna met us on the beach for a little while, and we had fun. And that was the last day.
Spring at the beach, gorgeous. I had to run some errands to help the Surfing Association collect prizes from sponsors for an upcoming event. I was also asked to do a presentation at a kids' day camp about water safety. I was really excited and manic, I supposed. Me. 6 different diagnoses in 10 years said differently, but it's my life, right? I stopped at a couple of restaurants to pick up surf contest prizes, and they offered me a couple of drinks. Sure, I'm manic hyper. Maybe it'll calm me down. Stopped at a surf shop to pick up some videos to show at the Kids Water Safety Day.
Before we got hit, I was sitting in the front passenger side, and I do vaguely remember a Bronco just being crazy close to us as we made a legal left-hand turn. I mean, we had the green arrow.
I remember everything. I'm fine, right? I'm in control, right? My dog Trixie was in the car and in the passenger seat. Trixie put her paw on my forearm. I said, "Okay, baby, get in the back seat so Mommy can drive." I saw the light approaching, and it looked green.
We made a left-hand turn onto a highway right off the beach. I mean, you wouldn't even think about what you were doing. You're just turning onto a highway. And I do remember thinking that there was a car with a heavy velocity just coming right on top of us. And after that, nothing. I mean, I was out.
A cataclysmic noise and jolt and tornado of glass, steel, and deafening screech. And I don't want to detail the carnage that lay in front of me. I remember everything. Every sight, smell, sound, and I disassociated. Where's Trixie? Where's Trixie was the only thing I could focus my mind on, because what was in front of me was too horrid to comprehend.
I remember seeing a car come through the intersection, like a sport utility, and I really didn't see the sport utility until after I saw the little car. Every window in that car just burst out. I saw the crash happen. It was like someone had exploded a bomb in that little car.
Oh, I was on duty that day. You're a firefighter first. You get off, you check for scene safety, and you got your personal protective equipment. And I remember getting off the back of the truck. I was expecting a fender bender. I saw Wesley, who I found out later that he, I guess, was across from them at the red light and witnessed the thing. I got to be honest with you, I think everybody was kind of shook. It's like, let me just grab some tools. That'd be the easiest thing to do for cutting them out and stuff. And as I'm walking to the car thinking, scene safety, I'm a firefighter, we got to make sure this car's not on fire, I went, oh, I'm fixing to be an EMT, I know it.
When I got there, I immediately approached the SUV and found the driver to be Melissa Marvin. I knew her as Missy because I knew her from before.
I remember sort of being put into an ambulance. Again, I had a concussion, so I was in and out. I didn't see anything graphic. I also wasn't very aware of like what was going on. You're sort of in a dream.
Going back and talking to Melissa Marvin, I had told Melissa, you know, you have been involved in a serious accident and there were fatalities. People have died. At that point, she acted like she didn't even care about what I was saying. She seemed more interested in finding out if her dog was okay. So I knew then I wasn't dealing with Melissa Marvin. I was dealing with someone who was intoxicated. Drunk.
But I did ride the ambulance with Melissa Marvin, and I remember hearing her conversation. I was separated, but I remember hearing her crying about her dog or something, and I still didn't realize it was reality. I kind of thought I was dreaming.
The hardest part of that day was having to notify parents that their children were not going to be with them anymore.
There were 2 police officers at my door, and they came in the house and told us. I was devastated. I was in shock. I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. My husband started to call my other family members to tell them, and I can remember them all coming. And we were all together. We just couldn't believe it. We were all in shock. And I can just remember just sitting there and crying.
My friend Michael, who lives on the Outer Banks, called me at the office in Manhattan, as he knew that Missy and I were close. While he didn't know all the details, he said it was a very bad accident and it had occurred about an hour ago. Then I spoke to Jesse, who was our good friend and a neighbor, and he relayed more details as they emerged. I was stunned and in utter disbelief. I went on autopilot that afternoon, and getting right on the highway to head south to North Carolina that night.
My dad, what seemed like an eternity later, arrived and took me. We went into my apartment. I said, I need to know what's happening, what's going on. And he just, tears filled in his eyes, and he said there was an accident. And he said, Shayna, Ange, Meg, Amanda, and Mike were in the car. They were driving, and then, and at the time they didn't have all the details. Somebody ran into them. Shayna was ejected from the back of the, from the back of the car. And I said, what, and what else? And he said, Megan, Angela, and Amanda were killed. And, it was, to this day, it was like frozen in time.
I was in the hospital having major surgery here at Jefferson in Philadelphia. I had a total hip replacement on Monday, and the girls were killed on Tuesday. I was on major morphine, which can be a good thing and a bad thing. I remember my husband he went to work on Tuesday, and he came to visit me in the hospital after work and stayed till about 9, I guess. I remember the things that my husband said. He was at home sitting out on the front steps watching the dog when he saw the police car pull up. And 2 men got out, told him what had happened. They were killed at 2:51 in the afternoon, and this was nearly 10 o'clock at night. My son was in the house. He said he heard his dad scream. My husband said he doesn't remember that. But they came into the house, and they told him what they knew had happened. Since this was North Carolina, we live in New Jersey. They were getting it secondhand and giving it to him thirdhand. And he said, my wife's in the hospital. Should I tell her now, or shall I wait till tomorrow? And they said, no, you have to tell her now. And I was going to sleep, and I remember him walking back into the room, and I said, what are you doing back here? And he came to the side of the bed, and he said there was a car crash and Amanda was killed. I don't really remember much of that, but he said my reaction was to look at him and say, oh. I think having morphine in my system was a major help because it numbed the reaction to the death, and her death actually numbed my recuperation from the surgery. By the time I totally realized that Amanda was gone, she'd been gone for a while.
I remember one morning I got a phone call. I can't tell you who it was from, but they said, "Did you hear about the accident?" And of course I had no idea what they were talking about. And I don't exactly remember the words that were spoken, but I got off the phone and picked up my phone again to call Amanda's house, and her brother answered. I said, "Michael, it's Jessica." And he just said, "It's true," and hung up.
I was woken up by a phone call. And they said, "Please come to the Health Services Center." Who calls a dorm room at 7 a.m. As I'm walking over, I knew something wasn't right. I knew someone was hurt. And I knew it was Megan. And when I got there, she said, the nurse said, "One of your siblings was killed." And I go, "Who?" She goes, "I don't know." I said, "Was it Megan?" She goes, "I'm not sure, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you had more than one sibling." So I called home, and my dad picked up and said, confirmed that it was Meg. I didn't know any other details. I just wanted to get out of that room. I was just numb, like I feel now. I was numb. I wasn't thinking anything. I couldn't imagine. It was the worst news possible. Someone dying in my family. That's the worst possible news I could ever receive. I didn't know anyone else was involved in the crash other than Meg. And when I heard the names, I was involved. They're close friends of mine too. It was just a nightmare.
Megan wasn't home. She was down in North Carolina, and I used to love her bed. I slept in her bed whenever she wasn't around. It was so comfortable. So I did, and I made sure I put everything perfectly on the floor so I could put it right back on top so she wouldn't know. And the next morning, my dad came into the room, and he sat next to me on her bed and explained to me that Meg wasn't coming home and that there had been an accident. My world stopped. I didn't know what we were going to do as a family. I don't know if I fully understood it at the time. My world broke that day.
And the director of housing, I was a resident assistant at the time, came up to me and said, "Something's happened, we have to go back to the dorm." I was thinking it was one of the students, and as we were walking across the field, I kept asking, "So what's this about?" And he said, "You need to call home." At that point, I just remember running to my room, and I called home, and my dad gave me the news, and I just fell on the ground. Because why, Megan? It wasn't fair.
On that Tuesday, say maybe 10 o'clock at night, I get a phone call in this little hotel room in Williamsburg, Virginia, and it's a New Jersey State Trooper saying that, is this Maggie Blong? And I said, yes. He goes, this is Trooper so-and-so from Red Lion Station in New Jersey, and your daughter, Megan, was killed in a car crash. And my whole thought was, you got the wrong Maggie Blong, you got the wrong Megan Blong. So you're in denial. You're in denial. I think that I had to ask the police officer, the state trooper, at least 5 times to repeat it so it would sink in.
My parents had came into Shayna's room. We were, Jesse, Shayna, and I were all, next to each other. We're holding her hand, and they had tears in their eyes, and they had said, we're going to ask you something that is totally up to you, but we would like you to go to New Jersey and represent our family for Amanda, Ange, and Megan for their services. We drove up to New Jersey, and it was, I'm going to say, I guess it was over the course of 3 days. We went to 3 funerals, and it was one of the quickest growing up experiences of my life.
I went and visited Missy in jail. I remember walking through security and feeling the weight of the metal, the bars, the police. The full weight of that place had a quick way of making me understand the weight of the circumstances. When I saw Missy behind thick plexiglass, she looked shattered. She couldn't really speak. She just rocked back and forth and wept. And I did too.
My best friend and a few other of us were they were our support team, if you will. And we were going directly to the hospital. And I remember about halfway down, I just had this strange feeling. And I said, you know what, we're at a rest stop. I said, I'd like you guys, if you don't mind, to go, in the first car. And I need to, for this last 2 hours, I just need to drive by myself. And I remember really just talking out loud to my sister and talking out loud to God and saying, I don't understand why this is happening. And I remember having this feeling just that overcame me, that was, Shayna's gone. She's not here anymore. And I remember screaming and yelling and crying in the car and saying, I told her I'd come back. I told her I'd be there. Jesse and I were going to go through physical therapy with her, and I keep my promises. And so I blocked it out. And I remember when we both pulled up and just sort of looked at me, and she was like, are you okay?
When I was in Virginia getting my death notification, Melissa Marvin, the drunk driver's family, was getting the death notification in the same town as in Williamsburg. So at that time, I feel that we both lost our daughters at the same time.
Shayna held on for 6 days, and she was gone.
I was a zombie for weeks and could barely fathom anything that was happening. Not because of the alcohol, but because the whole split-second, earth-shattering calamity, and it couldn't be possible that there were people who no longer existed because of me.
This accident affected me a lot, emotionally. It's been a long time, but you know what? It's still deep down inside of me. My feelings are blocked, and I don't know that that'll ever change. I gave up my career. I couldn't deal with the death anymore.
Seeing young lives in a funeral home laying on a slab, pretty damn graphic, young people. The potential was there, dreams and hopes they had and their parents had, just squashed by someone's selfishness.
I went through a major trauma. I went through an event that I'm lucky to have survived. I'm blessed to have survived, and I need to be thankful that I'm still here.
It was, the first few years after the crash was incredibly hard. Not to say that it's not hard now, but it was incredibly difficult. It affected my life in so many ways. I'm married now and I have 2 kids, and I just think how much more abundant my life would be if she were there with, to spend time with my family and get to know my family. I still have a bit of her ashes in my bedroom. I think about her every single day, not a day goes by.
Ever since that moment, I no longer have the option or privilege of making a choice. All of my choices are made for me. I have no privacy. I cannot choose when to sleep, eat, or bathe. I am not alone when I eat, sleep, bathe, or go to the bathroom. I have no control over the constant noise or who sees me naked. I get 1 roll of toilet paper a week. There is no respect. The prisons that are on TV are either federal or a lie. There is no internet access, cell phones, personal TVs, high-tech gym, etc. The barbed wire fence that holds me in is not what bothers me. Knowing that my destructive decisions have wreaked such havoc, irreparable death and destruction is hard to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
It's never, ever easy. I don't care if it's 14 years, if it just happened, or 20 years from now. It's always there. There's always this emptiness because she's not physically here. And I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Never. My worst enemy, I wouldn't wish it on.
When I came home and I saw that they announced the 4th girl died, I knew I couldn't do it anymore.
Those in my family who continued to live after the accident caused by my daughter carry a daily burden of pain, guilt, remorse, and shame. I question myself as a parent. My aged mother declined rapidly in health and cognitive abilities. I retired early from my job as an educator because of the stress of grief and shame.
There's not a day that goes by that this doesn't affect what I do on a day-to-day basis. It has taught me to embrace life, to embrace those people around you, to work hard, and to enjoy what you do. I always wish we could go back and change what happened, but we can't. But the girls affect all my decisions.
Well, I thought I'd either die or retire a firefighter. I won't get to do that. And it bothers me that I can't. I want to have that firefighter funeral. I miss being a firefighter a lot.
We just had the best time. We thought South Street was so cool. Amanda and I would just walk the street, go into different shops, and buy strange things that were, unique, that we knew nobody else would have, because we had to be completely unique. We couldn't be like anybody else, knowing that everybody we went to school with would think we were weird. We wanted to be weird. We wanted to wear clothes from thrift stores, and that's all the kind of clothes we would wear. Where we grew up, people kind of all sort of dressed the same and did the same thing, but we didn't want to be like that. And I don't think I ever would have thought in my wildest imagination that I would have done. But she just took a little bit of convincing, talked me into it. It would be so fun, let's just do it. And I'm so grateful that I followed her free spirit. We had an amazing time from 6th grade to the beginning of 11th grade. She was so confident and so fearless. She did whatever she wanted to do, she made her way to do it. She was a musician. She didn't just take guitar lessons like the typical kid. She took bass lessons and drum lessons, and she pursued her love of art, and it was so admirable. She just wanted to be an artist. She wanted to help people through her art and through her music and through just humanitarian efforts at a young age, which was incredible. She had so many friends because so many people were just drawn to her personality.
We had this very unique bicycle that was built. It had 3 wheels like a tricycle, but there were actually 2 seats, and they were tiered. One seat was higher than the other, and that was our ride around town. And growing up, I always kept a photo of the 2 of us on that bike on my dresser in my bedroom. And I learned later that Amanda kept the very same photo on her dresser in her bedroom. So that's probably the one image that when I'm thinking about Amanda, that's the first place I go.
I was in college at the time, and I would always look forward to her letters. She would always write me, call me. I always look forward to that because it would always make my day. And right before the crash, we had celebrated Easter. Just remember thinking, wow, life is good.
She was so fun to be around, so pleasant. I looked up to her so much throughout growing up, and it was great to follow in her footsteps, you know, in the family and also at school.
Megan was the happiest person I know. She was always unbelievably full of life, always so positive, never had a negative thing to say about anyone or anything. And we all just connected so much to Meg. More so, I mean, we're all close, but we all connected most with Meg.
Angela was a very loving and caring person. She had a great sense of humor. She was always the life of the party. She was just full of life.
You know, as I think back now, when you know, she was younger, it was just, you know, she was the little sister who always tagged around and was there when, you know, we went sledding to, you know, horseback riding, and the neat thing about life, if you let it happen, the progression that happens in those relationships. And reflecting back now, thinking, you know, I would say the last year and a half of her life went from, you know, being the little kid who tagged along to she was beginning to transform into her own person.
Melissa was a loving child and ever ready to help or rescue anyone or anything from harm. Considered to be a very well-rounded, well-liked, and known for her friendly, compassionate nature and intellect. Melissa performed well in school and was often asked to represent her peers. She excelled in many areas and graduated high school with several college credits. Melissa was a child to be proud of, and we were. Yet a number of disappointments entered into Melissa's life and disrupted plans for her future success just before and after high school graduation. Not getting into the college of her choice, being diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and the painful demise of her parents' 30-year marriage all seemed to play a part in her change of plans and ultimate choices. Not comfortable with the effects of the medicine prescribed for her bipolar disorder, she chose not to take it. Instead, I believe she self-medicated with alcohol. Not wishing to stay in the town in which she was raised, she left and began jobs centered around the sports she loved. Skiing at Breckenridge and snowshoe during the winters and surfing in the Atlantic during the summers. It was heartbreaking to see her potential misdirected or her poor choices so far off base from her original moral compass. We were worried. With some relief, we were encouraged when at last Melissa decided to go back to school. She was again an A student and was looking forward to the future. She was still saddened by her shattered family. She still suffered the effects of the bipolar disorder, and she still made a very bad choice in how to deal with it all. She drank.
I'm so sorry for everything that has happened. I never intended to hurt anyone. There's not a malicious bone in my body. And what happened was an accident. And I'm sorry. And there's nothing that any of us can do to bring those poor beautiful girls back. What I would like, Your Honor, is to be sentenced in a way that I can help other people and not just be a headline on some newspaper, Marvin sentenced to life. I don't think that that is going to prevent any of us or anyone from being in this situation again. I think that I can have a positive influence on other people. And what happened was a tragedy, and it was an accident. It's not intentional. And as negative and as horrible as this has been for all of you, for my family, I hope that one day it can be a positive thing for someone, somehow, somewhere. And it's not okay that they're dead. And it's not okay that Michael got hurt. But I just hope that one day you will all be okay. And I pray for you. And I'm so grateful.
That's all from the defense, Your Honor.
All right. When I return, I'd like to have your time prepared as well, please.
I'll do my best.
Yes, sir.
it's your life, you can do what you want to do. And I can do what I want to do, and don't get in my business because it's my life. And I say, that's crap. That's selfish, that's irrational, and it's unacceptable. When you, and I'm going to specify this to say Melissa Marvin, on April 6th of 1999, made the decision to consciously go to a bar and have a few drinks. She knew she was going to drink, and then she knew she was going to be then getting in a vehicle, and made the decision to turn the key of that vehicle and start the automobile. That moment, that automobile went from a car to a weapon. Any point, and I tell this with the young people I work with, that you put a substance in your body that has the ability to alter your state of mind, your ability to react and to function, not in a matter of walking down the street, but of getting behind a car and operating a motor vehicle. You are making an irrational decision. It's selfish that when people make the decision to drink and drive, put prescription pills in their body, to smoke weed, and then get behind a vehicle, it's thinking, whose mom, whose brother, whose best friend is in the vehicle next to you? It takes one split second for that light that now in your mind is actually, it's in reality 5 seconds. To you it seems 7 seconds. Well, a 2-second discrepancy in our mind doesn't seem that catastrophic. On the open road, it's life and death.
Really take a public stance about substance abuse, not just alcohol, but what I've dealt with in the district attorney's office and now as a judge. A very high percentage of what I've dealt with is substance abuse, drugs, or alcohol, and it's a serious issue in our society. Can't be solved by the courts or police. I think society itself, its people, have to say something if they see something. People doing drugs, then I'm going to say something. We kill around 25,000 people a year with alcohol-related deaths in this country. But I hope that people would take up and inspire people to stand up and speak out and call it like it is. Say it when you see it. See someone abusing drugs and alcohol? Get in their face and say something to them and talk to their families and their friends. It's the kind of event that stays with you forever. It just slaps you in the head. It's just something you never, ever forget.
It's everyone around me who matters not just as much, but even more. Then that's going to start to lead to what I'm going to call proper decision making. You're going to find yourself in a much better place.
Drinking and driving is the easiest thing to avoid. Think how your actions can affect those around you, affect those at home. You do not have to get behind the wheel after you drink. As I went throughout college, there were incidences where friends would tell me stories of, oh, I think I had a couple too many, but I had to get home. And what I would say to them is, you're lucky. You're lucky. You're lucky you're here, and you're lucky you didn't hurt anybody else, because drinking and driving is terribly selfish and can be avoided. So what I tell people is I tell them my story. I tell them how my life has changed every day from the action of one person, and how that had a ripple effect on my life, on my sister's lives, on my family's lives, and even my friends. Things can be avoided. Be smart and think outside yourself.
You may be thinking, this happens to other people, it doesn't happen to me. But from our story, I thought the same thing. It can happen to you. So it's up to you to make the decision to not get behind the wheel. And it can be a hard choice when you see somebody else who's about to make that decision. but you have to tell them, don't do it. I was at a concert and I saw somebody in the parking lot behind the wheel, and I got out of the car and I notified a police officer to go over and let them know. Because had they driven out of that parking lot, anything could have happened. And if that's what I can do to prevent people from going through this pain, it comes down to me saying, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to stand for that.
If you're going to drink, you need a plan. Have a designated driver. You can alternate. Take the keys before. It's difficult sometimes to take the keys from someone, the peer pressure, but think about the long term. It's so preventable, it's so avoidable, it's so selfish, and it brings so much pain to others, the effects of it.
Your choice to drink and drive can be a death sentence for yourself and innocent others, and a living death sentence for families and friends of all who survive. It can happen to you.
If you see something happening and you know it's wrong, you need to step in. And you don't need to be aggressive about it, but if one person on April 6th had taken the keys or spoken up or called the police and given her tags, I would still have a sister. Life, as I know it, and 5 other families know it, would have been completely altered. But when we keep our eyes closed because we don't want to say anything and we don't want to really see what's going on, we're ignorant. And that's where you have every 30 seconds somebody's killed by a drunk driver in our country. Every 30 seconds another cross is on the side of our roads, and that is unacceptable. And a culture and a society that's supposedly supposed to progress, and we're regressing because we don't want to offend people, we don't want to speak up. You take the keys, you get involved, and there's no questions asked.
The truth is, Missy is a good person, and the same thing can happen to anyone if they make the same choice to drink and drive.
Take a drink, you drive, you might not be thinking completely. You run a red light, or something as simple as people texting while driving. It's the same thing. People lose lives just because of one small choice.
So when you're out at a bar and somebody's somewhere and you're at a party and it's like, you know what, I think they might have, well then if you're a friend, you step in and you get involved. Because there's no gray area for me. My thought is that we have the ability to save lives so easily. And I think if we could get that message across on a legal sense and also within our culture, things would change. But until then, I think that's one of the things that we fight for, and we try to strive for, and we try to educate people about.
You probably all hear the lectures and the speeches about choices. Everything I've shared with you could have been avoided. One decision, one millimoment in time, and lives are irreversibly changed. It's not your life or my life. It's our lives. We are all connected